Okay. Ladies, welcome to the Free to Be You podcast.
Thank
you for having us.
Yes.
The first one that I've had with two guests, so we may have a few awkward moments like that as we go along, which is totally fine. I love that you are showing up from, well, you're in the Sunshine Coast, Emma, and we've got Tennille in Sydney, and I'm on the Gold Coast. The beauty of technology, being able to connect like this. And one of the things I would really love to just start with is you guys like talk a little bit about how you guys met, and then we can go into what it is you're doing, because I'm excited to hear and learn from what it is that you guys are doing together. Who's going to start?
So, you take the lead on that, how we met. Go for it.
Okay. All right. Well, we've met through our husbands. Our husbands actually grew up together, and just the way life works, you know, you get along really well with some of the wives or husbands, and then other ones not so well. But Tennille and I always got along really well and always had a really good laugh, and always were talking about the snow all year round. We'd be camping in the middle of summer, and we'd be discussing ski gear and where we're going next. And it was just such a passion that, and we noticed, I'm actually from Sydney as well, so I'm in Sydney, but we noticed I'm on the northern beaches, so when we get together, we'd kind of say, the mums around us are always like texting us going, I'm going to the snow, what thermal should I take, or how did you buy those tickets? We were a bit of the go-to people of our areas, and that's kind of how we met, and that's our common shared crossover, and we just had a really good dynamic, I would say. Tennille?
Yeah, definitely. So through our podcast, but yeah, and I think we also connected because our kids are very similar ages as well, you know, so that helps. We went through the same trials and tribulations with children at the same time. So you kind of, because I've got an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, two girls, and Em's got what have you got? 16, 14 and
16, 14 and 10. So I had a younger one again, but actually because we threw them on a few ski holidays, my son and Tennille's daughter actually took each other to each other's formals, which was really just as mates, but it just kind of shows, you know, family, friends, and just, you know, easy families.
Easy families. That's pretty much the connection.
I love that. And shared values, right? I mean, that's something that I find is if you're going to spend, or you find yourself spending a lot of time with somebody, generally, if you dig into that, which we don't normally, right? We just do it. But if we really do dig into it, even from what you've said, you can see you have shared values like the family, the travel, you know, the lifestyle that you want to lead. They're things that you have in common, and we tend to gravitate towards people who we obviously like, but those values are there as well. And so I know that, go for it.
I think the layer on top of that is that where Tennille and I are really quite good at is finding that where there was a will and a way, even when we had children, we were not those people that said, sorry, I've got kids, I'm not going skiing. We would find a way. We would find all the ways. And that's why people wanted to pick our brain. What ways did you find to find cheap ski tickets and cheap ways to go down and cheap accommodation? And, you know, we're not 5-star travelers, Tennille and I, like we're just, we will find all the ways and we will share all the ways. And I think we were just really driven to make it happen, I would say, the layer on that.
100%. And so let's segue then into what it is that you are doing, because I know you guys have a podcast as well, Loving the Snow Life. Well, I've never been to the snow, so we can have a little chuckle about that. Maybe I'll get some education. But how did you guys decide? Like, obviously, you've kind of started to touch on how you got the idea, but what did you have to like overcome to make this happen? Like, what were some of the things that were, you know, you had to move through, uncover to go into this?
Yeah. So I started a ski tour company, a snow tour company to Canada called Snow Life Tours. And that was kind of a whole nother world for me, but it was something that my passion that I wanted to start. Never been in travel in my life or tourism, but again, people kept going, how do you do this? What do you do? So I thought, I'm just going to start this company that does it. So I did a lot of research. I was a ski instructor in a previous life for like 10 years. So there's some background in that. So, but yeah. And anyway, and then COVID hit, which was fabulous. Loved it. And I just said in a passing comment, I go, how about we do a snow podcast? Because everyone keeps asking us questions, do you want to do it? And before I knew it, Emma is the go-to do it person. Where we started this podcast, and I'm like, whoa, we're really doing it. Okay, awesome. So, but there was many challenges. We had no idea how to do a podcast. So we had to ask, we found one lady, we Googled, how do you do a podcast? And then we found out, through one lady, Lyndall, that we did the podcast, how to set it up, and the processes of editing it, the process of recording, then editing. And we have grown so much in the 3 years that we've done this podcast. Like, it's just gotten so much better. We didn't know that we were going to be interviewers, really, did we, Em? Like,
no,
and
I think in the beginning it was literally just an idea, a thought, and I am reasonably allergic to having thoughts without acting on them. I mean, when people say,
I love that.
Well, when people say we'll have to catch up, I'm like, we'll have to catch up when you're free, or don't say it. You know what I mean? I'm that kind of person. So Tennille's learned to be very careful about what she says around me, because I will make it happen. But I think so many challenges in the beginning. I think Tennille did say, do you want to do a podcast? And I said, I may have to be very drunk. That was like, I thought, oh my God, like, I don't like the sound of my voice. Why would people want to listen? But I think we just started it, and just with the attitude of like, we don't need to advertise it on the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald. We'll just start it, and no one needs to listen if it's really bad. And we just make some steps, and I think
we had information that we wanted to share though as well, I think, which is really important, is that everyone kept asking us the same questions from every different walk of life. So we thought, let's help everyone. Let's make it easy for these guys to get to the snow, like yourself.
Yeah.
It's never been before. How do I do it? So that was how it started. Let's just share our passion and share information with people.
Yeah. Our first episode was recorded together at Tennille's house, and it was way too long. It was an hour and a half, and the topic was Perisher Resort versus Thredbo Resort, which is New South Wales's most well-known snow resorts for people overseas. That's our state. And it was way too long, and in hindsight, we would never make it that long and so full of information ever again. So we just tried our best. These days we don't try so hard. It's a bit more organic, but we really just, I
think, the overcoming was, get the husbands out of the house, get the children out of the house, get the dog to not, do anything. All of those challenges they're the biggest challenges, I think. I mean, the first time we recorded, there was I swear to God, the people across the road hadn't mowed their lawn for like 5 years, and they decided to mow it on that day. And I was like, are you kidding?
Yes.
Like, wow.
And actually, Tennille never minds anyone's dogs, but she was minding 2 chihuahuas, not dogs, but chihuahuas, like yappy. So that was our first. It was like, I would say it wasn't a disaster, but it was like, it was
comical.
Very interesting.
Yeah. 100%.
So I think just at that point, it's just making a go of it, making a go.
Yeah. And the thing that stands out the most out of that is just the authenticity, right? It's like, this is what's happening. Let's just make it happen. Be ourselves.
Yeah, I think so.
People are not brave enough to do that.
Yeah, it was a definite step to tell people, oh, we're going to do a podcast, and everyone's like, why? We're like, because we want to, That's the hardest thing, is telling people that you actually think you've got enough information to share with other people, and hopefully someone will listen. It's just taking that step.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, a tip for listeners would be, don't tell anyone what you're doing. That's what I've learned about being somebody that, I guess I feel like I achieve a lot in life because I just do it without thinking too much. But I think the thing that I have learned to do is don't go around telling people what you're doing. Just do it. Just do it on the quiet for yourself. You know, it's a bit like when you say, I'm going to lose 5 kilos or something, and you go around telling everyone, everyone's going to have a good look and see if you have lost those 5 kilos.
Damn it. I've been trying to lose those 5 kilos for 15 years. I'm just going to do it. No.
Yeah. Do it on the quiet for yourself. And then you're
Such good advice.
Then you're just not, you don't have people piping in. And, you know, if you decide to do it and then for any reason you go, it's not for me, or it's a bit of a dud, or it's taking too much time, who cares? Like, you didn't make a tattoo on your forehead saying you were going to do that. So who cares? You know, haven't disappointed anyone or yourself. You had to go.
Yeah. It sounds like you have a lot of inbuilt self-belief as well from being an action taker. For a lot of people, they find that get self-belief, like not having that self-belief, stops them from taking the action. So I love what you've done there, is highlighted the fact that your belief comes from taking the action, but without putting too much thought in it, without announcing it. It stops that negative feedback, I suppose. Worrying about that negative feedback, more the point. If you haven't put it out there, you're less likely to get it.
And it stops you worrying about failure.
Yeah.
By doing it that way.
Yeah.
And you really don't need everybody chiming in, you know, whatever it is. And how do you know what you're going to be good at unless you have a go? Whatever it is, even if you're thinking, I want to start sewing, just like quietly look up something that's manageable, like one step, and just have a go and be like, I hate this, it's boring. You know. Or I'm going to write a book, you know, and then just do your chapter ideas. Just it's very small things up front, without telling the world about them, without even telling your husband about them, without telling your kids or your friends. Like, why? I think that once you start making that thing where you're going around telling your friends what you're up to, not so much your friends, let's say, but people will add their layer on it. And the layer is whether they think it's a good idea, and it's going to be based on whether they would do it. So if they wouldn't dream of doing something, they're going to say, why would you do that? Or don't do that. Or if it sounds like that thing that you're going to get involved in is going to take you away from them in some way, they will try and discourage you from doing it. So I think just quietly try things on your own for yourself and figure out what you're passionate about without telling the world.
I love that. That's such good advice, because for us as women, we tend to share things naturally. Like, we will have the other mums around us, or, you know, our sisters, or whatever it is, our community, our immediate circle, and we confide in them. And without knowing that you're doing it, you are looking for someone to give you permission. And so one of the things that my show is all about, like the whole purpose of Free to Be You, is for me to give people permission to give themselves permission, right? It's like, why do we need that permission to step up to the plate and figure out what we're going to do with the second chapter of our life? Like, we've been the mum, we've earned the right to have this time to put into something that we're passionate about. And there's two things. One, most people don't know what they're passionate about. So they don't actually know, we don't actually know what we want to do. Then the self-doubt comes if we do figure it out. What if I'm not good at it? What's everyone going to think? And then we talk ourselves out of it, right? We talk ourselves out of it. So I love that advice, Em, because I think, can I call you Em? I always shorten people's names.
Yeah.
Just a thing. But I feel like that's what a lot of people do, is even if they figure it out before they even get going and take that first step, they've talked themselves out of it, or they've shared it and someone else has. So I love that you've done that. And so that's a big thing for people to overcome. It doesn't sound like something you had to overcome. Was there anything that you did find that was a big stumbling block for either of you?
So many things. We both sort of have a laugh that we're constantly like, nothing is easy. Everything is really, it's like running through knee or waist level water with everything. Yeah, snow, running through the snow. I mean, nothing's easy. I mean, going back to the family, like we're both running 2 households, very much the dynamic, let's say roughly up to now-ish, until we've really pushed for changes, but has been Tennille and I really valued, we're the ones who put dinner on the table every single night. You know, I think it'd be quite scandalous if it wasn't there and hot and steaming, you know, it's, you know, we've really valued that, and we've really valued being there on the sideline for our kids. If we miss something, if we miss an athletics carnival or some major, you know, it's quite a big deal to Tennille and I, because we've really valued, that has been a big priority. So to also put our own needs somewhere in there it's been tough, not only for everyone around us and ourselves, and just to find time to like to interview people is not easy. Like we've done it late at night, and you know, maybe our husband's like, what are you doing now? You know, people have questioned us, or I don't know. I think everything's been tough. What can you pin down?
But we haven't let it, but I think the thing is, it hasn't let us, we haven't been stopped by these things. We've found opportunities to do it. Like Emma's been on a beach in a car driving home from the snow and done the podcast because it had to happen at that time because we had an international guest, you know. Or I've gone, okay, I'm off to, you know, Thailand, and we can do it here. Well, let's block 3 episodes so we can load them off, you know. So we're always thinking about fitting it into the schedule. It's another thing that's had to come into our schedule, and something that we didn't expect to come into our schedule, but it did, along with, you know, taking the kids to school, taking them to sport, picking them up, cooking dinner, working our other kind of jobs that we have as well, like building a snow tour company. So
yeah,
and that's easy, you know, so that's kind of, so it's just about, there's constant things that get thrown our way, and sometimes, you know, like I just don't want to be funny today, Em, you know. So there's those things as well that you have to throw in, and so it's just, but you work through it. Like it's a good partnership to have someone that goes, okay, let's go, here we go, pick ourselves up, let's go, it's going to be great. And then you speak to your guest and it makes it all worthwhile, you know, because there's amazing people out there who have overcome more than a podcast.
That's
like,
so true.
They've survived an avalanche, or they've got like, you know, it's like
so
you just got to put it into perspective.
Yeah, well, it's funny because that's what I was about to ask you, based on what you both just shared, is like, what do you think it is that pushes you or drives you to move through all those things? What do you think is driving that?
Something else to write on the epitaph besides she did the washing up is a big driver.
That's so true.
You know, I guess that's, you know, it's I don't know. I mean, I look at my mum, and she did an amazing job raising us all 3 kids, and you know, very much but you know, her mum duties came first, and that was I guess that's my role model or whatever. But I also really admired the fact that when she turned 50 and we moved to Sydney, she got a job, and I can now recognize that was hard for her, but she did it. And the same kind of juggle that I think Tennille and I are going through, which is like, you know, the equivalent of like sitting in the car to do an interview and making it work and hanging out washing and all that. I kind of took my hat off to her, and I think it gave her, I'm giving myself the same kind of thing, which is it's giving her another string to her bow, something else to talk about, let's call it, a little less laser eyes on your kids, which is good for the kids. I think that, you know, I don't know, I just think it's healthy for my kids to see me have my own interests and things going on and everything. It's a more healthy household, I find, than if I'm just on them the whole time. That's just for me. No.
Yeah, I'm a little bit like that as well. I think also it allows me flexibility within our life to do this, so that keeps me going and wanting to make this such a success, because then you can have the school holidays with your kids, then you can have, you know, all those things matter. But I don't want to just do it and not be successful at it. So I think I'm driven by kind of like the success of having it out there, and the opportunities that come our way are getting more and more exciting as the podcast grows. And that's getting, you know, like we didn't think that we'd be where we are kind of, you know, in the snow industry, but the opportunities keep coming, and Emma keeps grabbing them for us, which is amazing because she's the can-do lady. But yeah, you know, and it just gives me another purpose, you know, because, you know, everyone asks you, what do you do? Fingers up to that question, you know, like, sorry. But,
no, most people answer like, who are you, with what they do. And most people aren't excited about what they do. And I love what you said there too, Emma, about being an example for your kids. That is my reason as well, because I think that the generation that we are bringing up, they're the first generation that have access. They don't know any different than not having access to social media and the internet and all the things. There's so many options for them. And when we grew up, we didn't have that. Like, we were like the last generation who kind of were out on our bikes, you know, until we were working. Like, we didn't have video games and mobile phones and TikTok and all those things. And so what are we doing with the second half of our life to show our kids that this the world they're growing up in is full of opportunity, and all they have to do is make a choice to go out and
you don't have to be young for opportunity to come your way.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
Yeah.
And having, you know, I've got a house of 7 kids, so between me and my partner, and most of them are over 15. I know. Most of them are over 15. 4 of them are girls. And as a woman in their life, I want them to believe in themselves. And I never want them to feel like they have to pretend to be something they're not, or do something that they feel like they have to do because something in their life is telling them that that's who they need to be. So I'm all about that, having that freedom to figure that out. And I feel like as mums, if we are figuring that out, if we are doing it, then that's going to inspire them as well. And I want them to, I know, you know, my mum and I have had an interesting relationship over the years. And I agree with you, Em, like, it's when you see them stepping up and doing something with their life, like it almost gives you permission to do the same. And so it's kind of, you be the example, you go first, you show them what a good job looks like. And then they're more likely to follow you and be inspired by you and talk about you in a good way. It's like, if I'm going to talk, what are they going to say about me when I'm not around? Is it going to be good, or is it, do you know what I mean? So there's all those little things that kind of drive me. And I love that you're sharing some of those as well, in terms of being inspired.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying is true about, well, being just that whole thing, coming back to being the example, because if we're requiring that of our children, if we're asking them, if we're saying, you can do whatever you want, you can be whatever you want, you know, find your passion, why not just show them how it's done, you know? And even just right where we are at this earmark of time, 2023, social media. I mean, Tennille and I, right in the beginning, like, we sort of did everything backwards, and we didn't really have a build up of our social media to our podcast release. We kind of casually threw a few things up, and people said, hey, you guys. So we kind of, you know, we started trying a bit more up with the social media after a while. And now I do, you know, enjoy it and focus on it. But we've had to think about things like, okay, so we're over 40 and we're having to take selfies and videos of ourselves speaking and everything. And you do have that moment where you go, okay, so I'm not a model, I'm not perfect, my hair's not done, I don't have any lipstick on. And then we've just gone, who cares? And
I love that.
The other thing is, it's a movement at the moment. It's not just us, it's every second person. And when I'm looking at Instagram and I'm hearing about health or getting outdoors or having a trip, I don't want to see, just personally, I don't want to see shiny 21-year-olds. I want to see 50-year-olds. I want to see 60, 70, 80. I want to see people older showing me what they're doing and showing me how it's done. And we have to just, because that's my belief, we have to walk that walk and go, you know what, I'm 48. we're gonna advertise a, whatever it is, film tour or whatever. I'm gonna put a cap on and put a smile on my face and advertise it, and just rock the fact that we're not 21.
Yes.
And then our kids also come and watch us do that, but we didn't go and get our hair and nails done to go and stand in front of a crowd to open up a Warren Miller film. We just went as Emma and Tennille, let's go. So, because we didn't need to be anything different. We need to be polished in what we're saying. That's really important to both of us.
Yes.
But it's, image is who we are. We're not scruffy or anything, but we're not, trimmed and propped till the nth degree.
Well, there's
and
times
I think that's
for that.
a good role model.
Yeah, there's times for that, and then there's times not for that. And I love that you're saying that too, because the other thing that can stop people is comparing themselves to other people online. So, they go, oh, it's already been done, or they're doing it better, or they, they are lighter than me, as in not as heavy.
I think,
so
that's
that
probably,
can stop
that's
people
thing
as well.
Yeah, sorry, interrupted you. Sorry. But that's probably a thing that also we had to overcome, like comparison to other people out there. We thought we were never kind of good enough, but we were just showing our passion that we had for an industry. And I think that's a big thing, is that if you believe in it and you show your passion, then it comes across the right way. And then we're comparing ourselves.
But also the fact that, like, there's somebody out there that does a similar thing to us, and she doesn... have kids and she has a huge profile, and it's easy to kind of get daunted by that and go, oh wow, like we're just not as ... connected enough, big enough, but what we decided was just like, oh well, you know what, we're just two mums that know how to choose ski pants, and so there's other people out there that want that knowledge. We're sharing the information that we find valuable to people, and we've just kept in our own lane and just gone, we're just offering something different. We're not trying to bargain people down on products. We're trying to say, hey, that's an Australian made product. This is why you should drop $50 on a pair of socks, because they're a fantastic company for X, Y, and Z. And after a while, after a few years, we're now getting recognized for that, because people trust that, sorry, but you're going to get nothing but the truth from us.
Yeah.
So
because you're showing up authentically.
Yeah. So it does pay to be, honest about everything.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And that comparison piece, like it's such a big thing. And one of the things with social media we have to remember is that most people, not so much now, I agree, and I feel like it's becoming a lot more prevalent now. People are showing up a lot more authentically, but go back even 12 months and you're hard pressed finding anyone who was not sharing anything other than the highlight reel of what's happening. And so we have to remember that. And the other thing too is, if we are comparing ourselves to somebody who's been doing what they're doing longer than you, we're comparing our beginning to somebody's middle. And you don't know what they've been through to get to there, or what's still going on behind the scenes, because they're not showing you that. And so one of the things, like with feeling like you're not good enough, or feeling like, do you have what it takes? When we do start doing something, we tend to get that imposter syndrome, right? We tend to get like, oh, like, am I good enough for this? Am I all the things? That voice in our heads that steps in and takes over and stops us. I have to remember, you're not supposed to be great at the beginning. You're not great at the beginning at anything, even being a mum. Like when we first brought that little baby home, we didn't feel like an imposter because we didn't know what we were doing. We just got it done and we just figured it out. And it's exactly the same with a new business. We're birthing this new idea or this new venture or this new project. We don't know always all the ins and outs of it. We have to figure that out. And so comparing ourselves to somebody who's 2, 3, 4, 10 years down the line, it's just crazy, but we do it. So we need to remember we're beginning. We're allowed to be beginners, and we're allowed to figure it out. Yeah. So what would you say to somebody that's listening who maybe they have an idea, maybe they don't, but they want to do something new. They want to, you know, you may have already, we may be summarizing what we've already talked about here, but let's answer this question like directly. I have no idea what I want to do. I have a couple of things that I'm interested in. Like, what would be the first thing, and maybe Em is the right one to answer, that you would suggest to them to do? Because normally what they would do is ask somebody else. So if they're not doing that, what are they doing?
This is an easy one. You go down to Officeworks or whatever, go and get a board or a cardboard or whatever, and do a vision board and write down. You don't even have to do the magazine ones, but you can just write down all the things you love. Even if it's, I really love accounting software. I really love it. I find it relaxing. I'm good at it. You know, something simple like that. Or I love, you know, hikes. Whatever it is, writing down your top things that you love. Do not ask anyone else, because you need to ask yourself. It's got to come from you. If I go around asking everyone, should I do this, for that feedback, I'm not going to be motivated to get up in the morning and do it myself. Like, I love what we do so much. And the other stuff that I do copywriting and editing for people and PR and social media now for a couple of other people. But and I love all that so much that I will do that in the car while my kids are playing sport, you know, when you have to drop them early and they run around training and it's a bit of a time sort of thing. Like, when you're doing stuff that you love that's come from you, it's not a chore, it's relaxing, it's fun. So if it was accounting for me, if I loved accounting, and I like to help people and I want to do an accounting podcast, if that's what I loved, it's a joy, it's fun, it's, you know, so you don't need to go and ask someone, excuse me, what do I love?
Yeah.
Ask yourself. And it doesn't matter how embarrassing it is. Like, it could be, you know, I admire the things people come up with. You know, the person who came up with those undies for periods, like, imagine going, I just love that idea. I'm going to like spend all my time you know, designing period undies. Like, people have to come up with stuff. So that's why you don't go and ask all your mates at dinner, because they're just going to laugh at you. Just ask yourself.
Yeah.
Great
I'm a little
advice.
bit of a perfectionist. So mine is, I have on my vision board. So that stops me from doing a lot of things, because I think, oh my God, it's not done to perfection. So I have my vision board. That's my definitely the first step, because that will create your idea and what you love. And then I have like 5 action steps. So I've got something to work towards. And then in the biggest, boldest letters, I have, done is better than perfect. So I have to do it.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's never going to be perfect. So done is better. And that's how you start some kind of little, you know, business or a podcast or anything. That's how I kind of do it. But yeah, definitely the vision board is first step, because it just it makes it real. It makes it real, you know, to you.
Yeah. And I think what Tennille's saying is right. Small actionable steps. And I think, like, I'm 48 now. I really want to do a full marathon when I was turning 40, and I'd never done one before. I'd done sort of, the maximum was the half marathons. And I remember thinking, it's the same principles now. I was like, I'm not going to tell anyone I'm going to do it, because then I'm not disappointing anyone. No one's going to ask me how it went. I'll tell them afterwards. And I was also like, I'm going to go as far as I've done before, which is half marathon. And then I'm going to break it down to, like, can I do another 5 kilometers? Can I do another 5? Can I do another 1? And then I also I'm not a perfectionist, so I also gave myself permission to fail. I was like, if I get to 30 kilometers and that's all I can do, I'm going to be happy with myself. And then of course, when I got to 30, you know, I was like, I'll just try and add 1. So therefore I was able to achieve it, because it's the small actionable steps and not being accountable to anyone else. Some of our goals can be a bit embarrassing. If we had them on the front page of the newspaper, they'd be like, I don't know. I can't think of anything at the moment, but they're not always.
I don't know. Your
ones we
period
watch
on these
together
ones was
with.
pretty good example, gotta say.
Yeah.
I don't know where you pulled that one from, but it was perfect. And you're right. And you know what? Some people need accountability. I am a perfectionist too, Tennille. Like let me rephrase that. I'm an overcoming perfectionist. I now love the fact that I'm perfectly imperfect. So I'm perfectly imperfect most of the time. I still strive for perfection, but the drive comes from a different place now. The drive comes from wanting to do well and wanting to be better than I was yesterday, like you're saying there as well, Emma. But I feel like I am still somebody who needs a little bit of accountability to move through that. So we need to find what works for us. Yeah, we need to find what works for us. I love that you guys have each other to keep each other accountable. And for anyone listening who perhaps is thinking, oh, I don't know if I could do anything on my own, or, you know, think about maybe the people in your life that you do align with, or somebody that you already have fun with and the things you talk about, and maybe brainstorming together would be a way, and coming up with a vision board like that, and then separate as well. But I think that what you've touched on there is so, so powerful. It's those small steps. If we try and eat the whole pie at once, we're not going to, you know, it's not going to happen. You just take the first slice, take that first step, and eventually get there. So yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
perfect advice.
I think social media fits into that category as well, because there's a temptation, like if you haven't started an Instagram page, or if you're just thinking about, you know, whatever you're interested in, if there is a temptation to think, oh no, it's not going to be a perfect photo, it's not going to be perfect online. But I think starting out, I find that every day I'll learn something new about social media. Like I'll learn a different way to present hashtags, it gets you in the groove of being in that. Suddenly I'm looking at online courses or webinars to do with social media and hashtags, and attending, you know, that like there's free info stuff all around. Like it just gets you, it puts you in that zone where you're dealing with people who are wanting the same things, I guess.
Yeah. And you step into that learning again, right? We need to engage the brain. Like after being in one zone, like mum zone, for so long, and finally sort of putting your head up. I know this was my story, right? I've kind of like finally sort of stuck my head up from being full on mum. I was like, you hands on. And then I looked around, I was unhappy and I didn't know why, and I had to uncover that. And getting back into learning, getting back into that zone of like, well, just going to put my hand to something. That's where when you start to get creative and you start to put yourself out there, you start to put stuff back in your mind, you can uncover a lot of things there too. That's definitely great.
It's so true. And I think, you know, also going, it's a strange thing to do, but, you know, networking was such a bad word, you know, oh my God, why would you want to go to that? But you feel yourself in a room with people that are like-minded people. You know, if you got rid of that term networking and just went, okay, I'm going to go into a room full of men, women, teenagers, 70-year-olds, whatever, and just learn from different personalities that are all come to the room to, you know, to have a chat. That's kind of really fun as well. You know, I hate the stigma attached to networking. It's like not everyone's there trying to sell their shit. Everyone's there trying to learn. You don't, like, different walks of life. You go to school with the same people. You go to uni with the same people. You go there to the same people. When you're this age, you're allowed to explore different personalities, different people, you know, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah. I think that's what Tennille and I discovered actually when we got together to start this podcast, is because we live in different areas of Sydney. We both actually said to each other, oh my God, last year I was doing heaps of networking. We didn't know each other was doing it. We were both kind of attending similar events for mums in the same circumstance, women who just had a curiosity stepping out of that whole, like, okay, there's something more I want to do. And it gives you that opportunity to kind of say, I mean, at the time I was, I think I was copywriting, or maybe stepping out into that, and just being able to say, oh, I do copywriting, and then saying to yourself, oh my God, I wouldn't say it that way again, just gives you those networking events in those early days as a mum are really valuable because actually Tennille and I were presenting about podcasting last night at a women's event, and we both noted that we recognized that scenario, that there were women there who were really stepping out and testing out how their script sounded when they presented themselves, like, I'm a so-and-so, and then, you know, then they got the opportunity to go home safely, no one judged them, and then if they went to another event, they would say it differently, like, I do software or whatever, you know, and it's so they're a soft for those networking events.
Yep. Awesome. Lots of great tips, ladies. Oh my goodness. I mean, either any of those or all of those would be a great place for somebody to figure out what their next move is and take that one first step, whatever it is that they're doing. So thank you so much for coming together with me today. And I think this went okay. Maybe I could do this again with 2 guests. Not too many awkward silences, talk over each other, but we do that anyway, don't we? And we're in conversation. So thank you for being here. Tell me and the people listening and mums listening, where can we find out about your podcast, or where can we reach you, ladies, if we want to work?
So Em, go for it.
It's so you'll find us on Instagram, Loving the Snow Life, and you don't have to be a skier or a snowboarder. We've got adventurers and outdoor explorer interviews on there. If people doing really interesting things, and that's also on
Winter
Facebook.
Olympians, actually, they're amazing. Like if you've got your kid that's you know, that young and you would like him to go to the next level, just to listen to those podcasts and the commitment from should try and be a high achieving sports person is incredible. Sorry, Em, just cut you off.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, all good. So Loving the Snow Life, and you can reach us on that as well on Instagram.
Amazing.
And if you want to find any of my tours, you can go to snowlifetours.com. I do, so come with me on a snow holiday to Canada or America, wherever you want.
I have to check that out.
yeah, definitely. We'll get you skiing or boarding.
I love that. Well, I'll put all those links in the show notes for this episode. Once again, thank you for being here, ladies. And if you haven't been inspired listening to, these 2 ladies who have just literally taken an interest and turned it into something amazing together, then I don't know what will inspire you, but hopefully from being here today, you can see that we're here to give you permission to step up, to be yourself. This is not a dress rehearsal. We don't get to come back into this body with this set of circumstances to do this again. So it's time to be the real you. It's time to discover what that is. And I've got some more amazing guests coming up on the show who will inspire you to get out there and be you. So thank you again, and see you on the next show.
Thank you.